I can still recall that Thursday night with unnerving clarity. The silence in the house pressed down heavier than any noise ever could. The sort where the soft hum of the refrigerator seems to dominate the room. My name is Daniel. I am 38 years old. Up until that night, I truly believed my marriage was steady, not perfect. Certainly not a fairy tale, but reliable. Emily and I had been married for 9 years. We had a modest home, a golden retriever named Max, and a predictable daily rhythm that, in hindsight, was almost too comforting. She worked as a marketing director at a nearby firm, and I managed supply chain operations at a construction company. Different careers, same schedule, coffee at 7, separate drives to work, dinner around 8. Our marriage lacked passion, but it had stability. Or so I thought. That evening, she sent me a message. On the surface, there was nothing unusual, except for what it said: journey alongside my superior. Returning on Sunday. No emojis, no explanation, just those words. I assumed I had misunderstood. Perhaps it was a business trip. She hadn't mentioned any travel in the preceding days. I texted back, which journey? But there was no reply. I glanced at the clock. 6:27 p.m. Her office usually closed by 6. A pit of unease began to form in my stomach before my mind fully grasped it. I tried calling, only to be routed to voicemail. Then, a part of me long dormant stirred, a clarity that had been hidden beneath ordinary life. It wasn't anger yet, only an acute perception, as if I was suddenly seeing my world in a new light. I opened my laptop and logged into our shared airline account. Emily had used it last month for a relative's wedding, so the credentials were still saved. There it was, a new booking. 2 tickets, same destination, same hotel, listed under a corporate discount. The companion's name, Mark Collins, her boss. 9 years of shared life reduced to a single, sharp moment of realization. It's strange how betrayal doesn't hit like a punch. It drifts in like fog, blurring what is real. Instead of calling her again, I sank into my chair and stared at the message. My pulse slowed, my thoughts sharpened. By 7 p.m., I had made 3 calls: my lawyer, the HR department at my company, and a friend in Emily's IT department. My lawyer, Aaron, who had guided my brother through a messy divorce, instructed me not to speak to her that evening. Document everything. Let her make the first move. With the help of HR and my IT contact, I confirmed the trip. Emily and Mark had booked the same hotel suite, allegedly for financial convenience. Everything confirmed my suspicions. By 8 p.m., my trembling had subsided. When she eventually messaged, it read only, "Have just touched down, we'll converse subsequently." I stared at those words, converse subsequently. Almost amusing, after all the years of failed communication, she finally found the time. I rested on the sofa, not from sadness but strategy. There is a certain calm in realizing the bridge has burned. There is no longer a need to cross it. The next morning, I drove to her office. I didn't enter. I waited in my truck, noting that her supervisor's car was gone, an early departure for their trip. I left a letter at reception addressed to the HR director, enclosing a printed copy of the travel details, identical tickets, same hotel, same reservation number. At the bottom, a single sentence: "I thought you should be aware of how company resources are being used." It wasn't revenge. It was the end of passivity. By midday, her company had launched an internal investigation. Mark received the first summons. Emily's corporate email was disabled, pending review. Around 2 p.m., she reached out via text from an unknown number. "Did you send something to my workplace? What is happening?" I didn't reply. I watched her messages stack up. "It's not what it seems. Daniel, please reply. It's complicated." Complicated, always the word of the deceived when the truth is revealed. By the time her flight landed on Sunday evening, her boss had been terminated. She returned home, her expression unreadable. Neither remorseful nor fearful, only disbelief. She dropped her bag and whispered, "What have you done?" I met her gaze calmly, like still water, and said, "Exactly what you requested. A trip with your superior. I hope it was helpful." Her mouth opened, then closed. That's when I placed a packet on the counter. Inside were 2 items, her termination notice and the divorce papers. Emily froze, her eyes darting between the two, as if searching for some redeemable piece. There was none. I had remained faithful. She finally spoke, her voice breaking on the word faithful, as if it weighed too heavily on her throat. I stayed silent. Sometimes silence draws out the truth more quickly than any question. She tore open the envelope, her eyes scanning the official letterhead, and her shoulders slumped. "You reported me?" she asked. I nodded once. "You reported yourself when you used the company card," I replied calmly. Her face deepened to a shade of red, whether from anger, shame, or both. "You've ruined my career," she said. I drew in a measured breath. "No, Emily. That was your doing. I only brought it to light." She froze, holding the notice, lips quivering as if to shout, but lacking the energy. Then she tried another approach, gentler, familiar. "Daniel, please. It wasn't what it seemed. We were just—" I interrupted quietly but firmly. "Keep whatever story you've prepared. I am no longer the audience." Her gaze swept the room, perhaps noting its emptiness. Half the photographs were gone, the sofa bare, the desk clear of letters, even the refrigerator partially emptied. I had done this deliberately, wanting her to feel the void she had quietly created long before this moment. "You orchestrated all of this," she whispered. "Not the emptiness," I said. "Only the part where I stopped pretending." She perched on the edge of the sofa, eyes wet, voice trembling. "I was wrong. I acted foolishly. I thought you valued me." I remained still. My concern had never been about her feelings. She had been focused on a weekend escape, funded by the company. Nothing more. She buried her face in her hands and wept softly, the restrained sobs that once would have broken me now failing to stir me at all. They were echoes of a world I no longer belonged to. After a long pause, she asked, "So, it's over? You've simply ended it?" I nodded. "You wanted freedom," she said, as if seeking reassurance. "You're giving it to me, officially." Her hands fell to her knees. "You can't just erase 9 years like this." I met her eyes. "You're right. I cannot. But you did when you boarded that plane." No yelling, no slamming doors, no theatrics. Just 2 people standing at opposite ends of what was once alive. When she left that night, she carried little with her. A small vice in her handbag. Max, our dog, followed her to the door, then returned to me, as if sensing which heart remained whole. The following days were quiet, almost unnervingly so. But it was a peace that healed rather than hurt. I went to work, to the gym, ate alone without feeling lonely. For the first time in years, silence meant control, not absence. A week later, a letter arrived from her lawyer. The usual formalities of closure. I ignored it. Some matters need no resolution, only separation. Her company did not pursue legal action. Word of the incident spread quickly. She moved out of state, stayed with her siblings, acquaintances reached out, curious or concerned. I made no disparaging remarks, simply noting that our paths diverged. She chased excitement, I sought integrity. A life cannot be built on one craving chaos and the other seeking calm. Months passed. One evening, a message appeared from an unknown sender. "I regret my actions. I failed to appreciate what I had." I considered it, then deleted it. No anger, no pleasure, only closure. Vengeance is said to be sweet, but I disagree. True resolution is silent. Now, when people ask if I would marry again, I smile, perhaps, but only for someone who understands that loyalty is not about staying. It's about choosing the same person every day, not through grand gestures or expensive trips, but in the small, quiet ways. In the steady gaze that reassures, in the calm of trust that persists. Emily once said that confidence fades slowly, like daylight slipping through curtains. When it disappears, one does not chase the darkness for answers. One rises earlier, moves forward. That evening, my former spouse sent a message, "Travel with my superior." 10 minutes later, she had lost all she had taken for granted, not through my desire for revenge, but because I had finally remembered myself, The self I had allowed to forgive repeatedly.